What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Norwegian dialects. I had watched a video earlier, a few weeks ago now, that referred to this word, Norwegian dialects. And at first I was a little confused by it, where someone was asking people around Oslo, what dialect are you? And in the United States, a dialect is just a way of talking, I suppose. We don't even really use the word dialect ever, really. Outside of school, maybe history class. But apparently in Norway, if I'm to understand, there's something very common called Norwegian dialects. And from what I understood, from what I could tell, they were saying, oh, I'm from this part of Norway, and I have this dialect. Is that normal to ask people in Norway what dialect they have? Does it tell you something about them, like where they're from? Or is it literally a different kind of Norwegian language that they're speaking? Or I'm just a little confused on exactly the specifics and how it all works. So I figured, hey, why not watch a YouTube video about it, right? What could possibly go wrong? But seriously, I am hoping that this video answers some of my questions on Norwegian dialects, or at least tells me something I didn't know about it, you know? Any information on this would be good to me. So with that being said, let's take a look.
Oh my goodness. This is probably one of my favorite things about Norway. There's so many amazing things about Norway. But one of the things I think is just fascinating is the dialects there. So Norwegian, of course, is a very beautiful language. Oh, it is so beautiful. And interestingly, so it actually is Danish, kind of. Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of history there. But basically, Norwegian is very close to Danish because it was Danish in the 1800s. Like, Norwegian pretty much was taken from Denmark.
Okay.
But that was more just in the main cities, like Oslo or, I don't know, probably just Oslo, really. I don't know.
Man, this is... I didn't realize what this video was going to be. It's almost like a history lesson here. But when you're talking about the development of an entire language, that makes sense.
But there were all these other little places out in the boonies, of course, of Norway, which are, you know, kind of like the countryside, and they had dialects. So I swear, every neighborhood you go into in Norway has a different dialect.
Okay. Okay, this is kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't know what had caused it. So it's really just a result of all of the parts of Norway that are kind of distant and around the edges, parts that were not really influenced a lot by Denmark. And so they have more of their historical dialect or way of speaking as a part of their culture still to this day? Something like that?
There's so many, and they're all influenced by these different factors. So Oslo is kind of the pure dialect. It's what you learn when you go to Norway, or what usually people learn when they go to Norway.
Huh.
It's called bokmål, and
Bokmål. I've heard that word before. I've heard it. So that is the Oslo dialect, the most standard Norwegian dialect. Okay.
basically just means it's just the written way to say things. It's like the official way to speak Norwegian.
Okay.
And it's very pretty. This is the dialect that most people think of when they hear Norwegian, because it's very up and down and very emotive, very
Sure.
just very proper and very beautiful. And that's kind of like the Oslo dialect and that area down south.
That's pretty cool. I don't even know what I would consider to be the equivalent of this for the United States. I suppose the United States has kind of a standard American accent. And then, yeah, in parts of the United States, like Boston, Massachusetts, New York, there's accents. There's a California accent, New York accent, Yeah, but we refer to them as accents, not dialects. Maybe that's a good comparison for me to kind of understand this a little more.
If you want, okay, here's actually kind of
Oh,
a little makeshift map of Norway. So down here we have Oslo, and
okay.
that's like the east coast. And so here in Oslo and the surrounding area, that's more so of the Oslo dialect. But then when you get out to over down here or here, or actually just anywhere except for there, you have like entirely different languages. So
Really? Really? Wow. How different would be my question. So, in different parts of Norway, around Oslo, like everywhere else, they have different dialects, which are versions of the Norwegian language that are just different? How different? We don't have anything like that in the United States.
okay. So if you travel down here, down this way at the tip of Norway, this is Kristiansand, and this has a beautiful dialect. Their R's are different from Oslo, and they just say things differently. They have different words for things, and it sounds really pretty.
Does every Norwegian know all of the different language, all of the different dialects? What if one person with one dialect is talking to another person with another dialect and you don't understand what each other are saying? Does that happen a lot? Or I'm just trying to think. I've never thought about this. I've never heard of this. So I'm thinking logistically how this would work.
It kind of sounds like a cat talking to you, in my opinion. Yeah.
What?
Um, and
Apparently, one of the Norwegian dialects sounds like a cat. So, there's that.
then if you travel up around this way, you have Stavanger and Bergen and all these other places. And the west coast, which is Stavanger and Bergen and these Ålesund, Ålesund. These places
Okay.
have a very distinct dialects. Bergen dialect has more, they have scarred R's, so it's a very harsh R. Stavanger is even more so. It's a very harsh R. I can't do it.
So that makes more sense to me. That's more of an accent thing. Just changing the way you talk. I'm curious if it's more of an accent thing or entirely different languages, basically. That blows my mind.
But it sounds really pretty when they're talking. And also, they along the west coast, they tend to speak more of what is known as nynorsk, and nynorsk is like New Norwegian. So, and that's a whole history by itself. But
Nynorsk. Is that yet another way to speak Norwegian? Like bokmål? In Nynorsk? Okay.
basically, this guy went around Norway and he collected all these different dialects, and he decided, hey, we're gonna go back to the original Norwegian, and so he made up this language out of all the dialects, and that's nynorsk.
What?
And
What? 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 Did that happen? Did that really happen? Some guy went around Norway and got a bunch of people to speak in the traditional Norwegian way? And it's called Nynorsk? Okay.
so Stavanger, yeah, Stavanger and Bergen, they're kind of a mix of these different dialects, and of course, when you go out in the fjords, they just get tenfold crazier, and they're hard to understand if you're an outsider like me coming into this.
Oh my gosh, this would make being a foreigner trying to speak Norwegian and understand. It'd make it impossible to. This is such a level of detail that I feel like if you're not living in Norway, living all of this, you don't have any chance of keeping up with this. Although she's obviously maybe American and she's doing a pretty good job, so I don't know, maybe there's hope for me yet.
This country and learning, bokmål, right? So Oslo dialect, and then you go over here and you're like, whoa, what are you saying? It's just a different language.
Yeah, I mean, she's basically saying it's an entirely different language at that point. Are all of them considered Norwegian? and then a variation of a dialect of Norwegian, so something like that.
And actually, Ålesund dialect, that's where I first moved to when I moved to Norway. And Ålesund dialect is pretty similar to Bergen, except it has a lot of rolled R's. So, yeah, they're kind of made fun of a little bit for that. But it's really pretty. Then we go up
Okay.
to Trondheim.
There's accents in America that are made fun of as well, so that's kind of similar.
Trøndersk. Is that right? Is that how you say it? Trøndersk. Trøndersk is, yeah, they tend to cut their words in half. So they'll leave off the endings of verbs, or they'll leave off, yeah, just the endings of words in general. And they
What?
also tend to speak very fast, just very fast. Whereas down here in Ålesund, they kind of talk a little bit slower, like they pronounce everything in there. Oslo speaks very fast as well, but
It's almost like Norway has a bunch of little communities and societies within Norway, because these places seem like if they're almost speaking entirely different languages and accents and ways of talking, they're very different culturally. But they're all within Norway. That's pretty amazing. I know Norway is a pretty diverse place, so maybe that makes sense.
they're like kind of like New Yorkers, like they just like, they're busy, they just gotta like talk really fast and stuff. And then Trøndersk, they also speak pretty fast, but it might just sound like that just because half the time you don't understand what they're saying, so it's like, ooh, okay, slow down there, bud. Like, what is that? So yeah, that's Trøndersk.
Yeah.
And then
If I went to, I don't speak Norwegian, but if I did and I was in Norway, that'd be me asking everyone like, "Oh, could you please slow down?" Or I know you speak English. Can we just speak English, please?
moving up the country, you kind of move into these very special dialects, the Northern Norwegian, which I think is gorgeous. I love that. And they have a different tonefall. So tonefall is actually something, that's what what we're talking about when we talk about the Norwegian going up and down in their
Okay.
speech pattern, right? Oslo is very much up and down. The West Coast is kind of in the middle. Ålesund is very monotone.
So this is just all a part of Norway and Norwegian culture. People growing up in Norway have lived with this, they've experienced it their entire life, the dialects, different accents. So this is all just very normal, typical stuff. So it's probably pretty strange. It's very strange to a foreigner to hear this and be like, what? But, I mean, we have variances and accents and stuff, but nothing on this level, I feel.
Kind of. Trøndersk, I can't remember. I think it's pretty much normal. But then when we go up to northern Norway, they start having this opposite tonefall from southern Norway. So they tend to talk kind of like cowboys in a way. I don't know. They're
Wow, you go you go so north that they become cowboys. Who knew?
they're kind of their own type of Norwegian, and you have to adjust between dialects. You kind of have to tune your ear to them because there's so many and they're so different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yep, that's dialects in Norway, and I love that there are so many and that you can hear so many different cultures, because
Yeah.
I think the dialects kind of reflect the culture of each city in a
Yeah, I mean, this is amazing to me. I just didn't realize how much of a cultural identity different parts and cities within Norway had compared to each other. I didn't appreciate that fact.
way. And yeah, I think each one is just beautiful in its own way. So And then
Wow.
you also have all these other places on this kind of close to Sweden. And I haven't really been over that way, but I've heard that they also speak pretty close to Swedish. They kind of influenced by the little
Oh,
rhythms in Swedish and that kind of thing.
okay.
But yeah, I'd say my personal favorite dialect is Tromsø. It is so beautiful. It is
Tromsø.
so beautiful.
Tromsø is her favorite. Okay. I enjoyed that. That was by Lifey. I like that. I gotta give that a like. That was fascinating. That was actually perfect. I was wondering.
Hey, everyone, so I'm excited for this one.
Oh my gosh, that scared me. Geography now, Norway. No, stop.
Oh my goodness.
No. We're talking about dialects right now. I'm sorry, YouTube. We're maybe next time. Oh my gosh, what was I saying? I was wondering if this video was going to be able to specifically answer the really specific question I was wondering. What are dialects? What does it mean? What does the word even mean to a Norwegian? How different could the places in Norway possibly be? And all these questions got answered, essentially. This was fantastic. This was like perfect for introducing me and explaining to me what a dialect really means in Norway. It can mean a difference in the way you speak, the rhythm that you speak. It can be a difference in the words that you use, the Norwegian words you use or don't use. And it has a lot to do with where you live in Norway and where you are. And I never appreciated how diverse and what different cultural identities and communities existed in Norway, that everyone has their own dialect. That's probably really personal to them and means a lot about where they came from and where they were raised. So this is honestly fascinating to me, this whole concept. Really amazing. I had no idea there was such a thing like this in Norway. I had heard this word and Norwegians asking each other, "Oh, what's your dialect?" And I was like, "What? What does that mean?" But now I get it. I get it, and it's amazing. Wow. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a comment or give it a like. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway, Norwegian culture, things about Norway that I've never seen or learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.